On December 8, 2005, Ryu Ga Gotoku released for the PlayStation 2 on the Japanese market. The pre-release review scores had been favourable, scoring the game highly. Even Famitsu, Japan's #1 video game magazine, had given the game a 37 out of 40, citing the unique atmosphere and exciting gameplay as its biggest features, making it one of the best reviewed games of the year, standing alongside titles such as Kingdom Hearts 2, Resident Evil 4, and Shadow of the Colossus. However, Sega, the company that had approved the ever-increasing budget, was still concerned the game wouldn't sell. The initial shipment of Ryu Ga Gotoku was only 70,000 units. Selling one copy at 7,140 yen each meant that even if all of the first shipments sold out, it wouldn't even come close to recovering the cost sunk into the development and advertising budget. Luckily for Sega, word of mouth and online forums quickly spread the news. Ryu Ga Gotoku was a revelation. This is an amazing game! I thought it would be a Japanese Grand Theft Auto, but it's totally different. I've fallen for the protagonist Kazuma Kiryu's manliness. Whether you go to cabaret clubs, make money at the casinos, or just play around at the play spots, you'll never get bored of it. As the amount of players grew, so did the hype surrounding the title. Even the larger chain retailers were having trouble keeping up with demand as more and more people picked up a copy. It wasn't just the average audience of gamers either. Ryu Ga Gotoku had the exact reaction Nagoshi was hoping for. The target audience of older and lapsed gamers were picking up the title and diving back in, looking for a unique, character-driven story set in their homeland. Word quickly spread back to the team that the game they'd pour so many hours and sleepless nights into was about to become a hit. The next shipment was roughly double the amount of copies of the first, and sold just as fast. Within the first 3 weeks of launch, around 232,650 copies of Ryu Ga Gotoku had been sold. By January of 2006, they easily crossed the 300,000 copies sold mark, raking in just over 2.1 billion yen, and showed no signs of slowing down. The game had managed to recoup its budget cost in just a few weeks. The team were elated. The first game from this new studio of both console and arcade veterans was a hit. The only person that didn't join in the celebration was producer Masayoshi Kikuchi. He'd been down this path with his own series before, and knew that a game would only be in the public consciousness for so long before people moved on to something else. They definitely had a hit with Ryu Ga Gotoku, but how could they keep the momentum going? With the Xbox 360 launching in Japan just a few days before the release of Ryu Ga Gotoku, and the PlayStation 3 launching later that same year, next gen was coming quickly. Kikuchi decided that they needed to make one more gamble in order to solidify Ryu Ga Gotoku as a staple of Sega's game library. He announced to the team, "Let's release 2 in a year." Nagoshi pulled him aside. "There's no way we can do that." Kikuchi's plan for a sequel was to make it at least 1.5 times bigger than the original. Players wouldn't just accept the same thing done over again. They'd need to feel the changes in the combat and even an upgrade in definition and frame rate. Not to mention, with next gen around the corner, would it be enough to simply release it as a PS2 game? If Kikuchi wanted to release a sequel in 2006, they would only have a 10-month development cycle. Kikuchi was determined to make it happen. By way of explanation to Nagoshi, he said, "This fire we've kindled will go out with surprising ease. If we don't do it next year, there's no point." In the early days, Kikuchi was the first person that understood the type of game that Nagoshi was trying to make. The one who had helped take this idea off the ground. If it was possible to make a sequel in 10 months, Nagoshi was left with no choice but to listen to his comrades' advice and come up with a plan. Okay, before we say it can't be done in 10 months, let's think of a way we can make it in that time. The answer they came to was a method of game design known as parallel progression. Typically, when a game is created, you would first write the scenario and then do the storyboarding, followed by the character models, mocap, world creation, music, and then sound. Everything moves in a straight line, allowing the entire team to have a hand in each part of the development process. With parallel progression, the team was broken into 4 separate sub-teams, allowing each to work independently on different facets of the game. If everything went smoothly, they could cut development time drastically. For the team supervisors though, Kikuchi, Nagoshi, and Yokoyama, the amount of work they would need to do nearly quadrupled. It didn't matter to Nagoshi though, who simply stated, "If our suffering allows this game to be made, so be it." Their schedules would be packed, and Nagoshi would need to relinquish some of his control to the other members of his team. There would be no way that 3 could micromanage everything this time around, but the staff on each team, emboldened by the success of Ryu Ga Gotoku, were keen to get started. The cloud that had hung over the offices ever since the game was first conceived had been lifted, and the entire studio were invigorated with an energy to push themselves even harder to live up to Kikuchi's plan. The red light district of Sotenbori in Osaka was quickly decided as the game's new setting, as well as the return of the familiar Kamurocho. Each member of the team began contributing ideas to upgrade the battle system and sub-stories. There was an energy in the Sega offices that had been missing since the death of the Dreamcast. With only 10 months to get to market, in February of 2006, development began on Ryu Ga Gotoku 2.